A lot of you have said no one gets held accountable. Nothing ever gets done. Well, there's some movement in that. And that is that one of the Minnesota agitators, really the leader who invaded that church, has been arrested.
Yes,
that's right. This is Nikema Levy Armstrong. And she was even the one that Don Lemon pointed out and said, this is her group. She is the one, Jordan, obviously she had a history with Black Lives Matter in Minnesota years back and actually faced criminal charges there with some of the actions under protests. It's very interesting, and we'll be able to get into some of this because she even did an interview with CNN yesterday with Aaron Burnett and talked about this, tried to reframe it, but even some of the language she used there was almost admitting to violating some of the language and the way it's described what they did in the FACE Act. So not only do they have video, but now they have interview testimony where she says, people should be talking more about what the ICE agents are doing, not that we peacefully disrupted a church service, which is the letter of the law of the FACE Act, is if you are disrupting a service, then you're in violation. From
outside. You don't have to go inside. If you were pounding a drum, or you were on speakers, things like that, that's enough to be arrested under the FACE Act. You don't have to love the FACE Act because of what it's done to the pro-life movement, but it also protects houses of worship, and the DOJ is doing exactly the right thing, which is if you're going to enforce it against us, we're going to enforce it against you, and now you're going to be charged with a federal crime and arrested by the FBI like she was this morning. So as you said, Logan, when people say nothing gets done, she was arrested by the FBI. She's the leader. She'll name names. Yeah. This will not be the last arrest. I think there will actually probably be 100 plus arrests.
And this is just days after.
Exactly. And Jordan, as you said, it isn't the last arrest. They have already arrested a second individual.
Okay.
Has been taken into custody. And Pam Bondi in a tweet said, "We will protect our houses of worship."
But they're looking at charging Don Lemon with a different crime. And it's actually a bigger crime. It's a violation of what is the KKK Act. This allows the federal government, anytime the constitutional rights of Americans are being violated. That could be by state officials. So we saw that during the civil rights movement. That could be by organizations like the KKK. That can also be if you are involved in inciting. So what here would be is that by Don Lemon's presence and with the cameras, he was actually inciting that to the next level and almost encouraging it to get more aggressive, going up to the pastor, putting on the cameras like it was some kind of an event. And so the DOJ is looking at that charge. It's a more serious charge, and Don Lemon is going to use, of course, arguments that he is just a reporter. He was there on site, and he was just there, and he was not part of the protest. So they are going to have to show under that he was inciting and actually part of violating constitutional rights of Americans. So that's a separate law from the FACE Act, which is actually a broader protection for all of us in the United States in case organizations, local law enforcement, other state officials are violating our rights.
Well, and Jordan, to that point as well, the person who is looking into Don Lemon's actions, Harmeet Dillon, who is the Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights Division. So the Attorney General telling the FBI to get the people that actually perpetrated the crime that would violate something like the FACE Act, much more simple, as straightforward. But the Civil Rights Division needing to look at that and make sure they have a case before they go and make an arrest with someone like Don Lemon, that is the appropriate way to do it.
You could move down and you could utilize FACE Act and other things because he entered. But you have to then look at his claims as the journalist and his connection to the protest, which they're going to have to do their research on. So they probably need to file initial claims to get more evidence to see, was Don Lemon he obviously knew what was going on, but that was on Facebook. So is he going to say, my people just found it on Facebook and we showed up? Or did they contact the people and say, we're going to come with cameras, we're going to go with you, is that okay with you? And then if they can show that kind of connection, then you can look at bringing the charge.
Well, and also...
So that's why it's a little bit more difficult.
To this point, I want to play this bite for people because the individual, Nikema Levy Armstrong, who was arrested already, who was the organizer, she went on CNN...
She obviously doesn't have very good lawyers
and she is an attorney. She is an attorney herself.
Well, then she just wants this to happen.
She, once again, though, but I want to play this for people, and I also want to put it in context of the things that we've already played from Don Lemon, him going on podcast and bragging and saying that this church is white supremacist, that all these bad things. He was admitting they were targeting Christians. Yeah. So once again, already civil rights issues right there. They were targeting people based off their faith. But I want to read this. This is from the FACE Act, where it says freedom of access to clinic entrances. That's what FACE stands for. Prohibited activities, whoever, and then section 2, by force or threat of force or by physical obstruction intentionally injures, intimidates, or interferes with, or attempts to injure, intimidate, or interfere with any person lawfully exercising or seeking to exercise the First Amendment right to religious freedom at a place of religious worship shall be subject to the penalties provided in subsection B and civil remedies, etc. Here is what this individual who was arrested said on CNN last night, admitting to the violation of the FACE Act, Bite 16.
So anyone more concerned about us going and having a peaceful disruption of a church service than the reason that they were there needs to check their heart, and they need to check their theology.
So right there, she said, anyone more concerned with us going and having a peaceful disruption of a church service. That is exactly where it says interfere with any person lawfully exercising their First Amendment right to worship. Yeah. She is admitting on CNN a violation of the FACE Act.
She will be held to a higher standard in court because she's an attorney and knows the law.
Yeah, and when you read this and it says, if someone needs to check their heart and their theology if they were more concerned about the disruption of the church, why not both? Why can you not be someone who's disturbed by everything that is happening in Minnesota? I think that's true for most people. They see what's happening on the streets. They see people's lives lost. They see the chaos that's happening there. They see the massive fraud that's happening. Then they see churches getting stormed. How about we all can say, we got a problem with all of it. It can't be always this, it's a party line thing, so we got to pull one side or the other. I think most people look at this, most human beings that are, not necessarily...
This is also why they tune out and say, who cares? This is just a party line.
It's a political moment.
So I have to take a view now. And so she's coming after conservative white Christians. Well, if you happen to be a conservative white Christian, you're probably then going to take the view that, you know what, go ahead, ICE.
I think we should play this other bite from her, Jordan. This is where she tries to reframe what happened, even though we've seen the video, and it doesn't make it any better for her. But it's like she went on this CNN interview trying to reframe it.
Spewing.
But Bite 9 trying to say that they weren't actually interfering. Bite 9.
I do want to correct something that was said in the beginning. We did not rush into that church. We actually went and sat down and participated in the service. And after the pastor prayed, that is when I stood up and asked him a question in response to his prayer. And then he responded to me. And then I proceeded to ask him about Pastor David Easterwood and how is it possible for him to serve as both a pastor and the director of ICE for Minnesota. And instead of responding to me, as soon as I said the name David Easterwood, the pastor says, shame, shame. And that is when I led us in chants, justice for Renee Good and hands up, don't shoot. So I want to clarify that. We didn't rush in. We didn't bust in. We were a part of the service until I got up and posed that question to the pastor.
So you went into a church that peacefully allowed you in because doors are open at church to anyone, sat down, disrupted the service by asking the pastor a question when it was not an appropriate time, wasn't asking for questions. Then you did another question. The pastor was trying to calm this down and say enough, and basically was telling his people to get out.
You had at least a minimum.
And then I had my people start disrupting the church service and getting aggressive so that people were running out with their kids.
Nothing she says makes it any better.
Yeah, you can if you stand up and disrupt, if you stand up and disrupt a service at this point in time in 2026,
you get taken out.
Likely a security comes by or someone and they get rid of you, they usher you out.
Like that.
Yeah, that's just not how it works, and I think they know that. And to act like it's not premeditated or planned is absurd. Well, if you wanted to go meet with the pastor, you want to do something, schedule that out, you know what? There probably is a good chance that could have happened. Oh, yeah. But instead you decided to make a spectacle of it, and that's all it is. It's just disrupt and harm. And look, like I've said, we got to calm this all down because it's getting out of hand. But look, I think actually having arrests in this moment, does help that.
Yeah,
I think it actually makes you go, okay, all right.
Let the federal government do their job.
For sure. I think for both sides, they can go, all right, you should realize there will be ramifications to disrupting a church service doing something like this.